Well, Mr. Storm, how are you doing, sir?
Good toy evening to you, sir.
Good toy evening to you as well. Hashtag toy evening trending now on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. Trust us.
Yeah,
Uh,
doing good, brother. Like I said, man, great week. Bunch of great stuff in the toy community to talk about. It's
yeah.
always jazz to get on with you, whether it's on a Friday night for the other thing that we do, or tonight and everything, or just in general. It's just good to talk to good people about good things, man.
Yes, sir. I'm excited for this. It's always a pleasure to jump on and talk plastic with you, sir. Because little known fact, I feel like we just missed paths for so long, and
Yes,
then
exactly.
now it's just like everyone's just like, well, you guys need to talk because GI Joe and mask and toy history. So
Which I
uh,
was big time excited tonight because,
yeah,
again, two of the best lines I think that was ever produced through
yeah,
the 80s. It's going to
yep.
be an interesting talk tonight, so
And
I'm
that,
really excited about that.
yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting facts that'll be brought up. I think there's yeah, I mean we'll get into it. But for all of you that are coming in and checking things out and wondering like, hey, who are these two really sexy human beings on screen? That means you subscribe. But if you're like, I don't see it, well, you should stay sexy and subscribe. We are the TOYBOX Chronicles. I'm here with my lovely, gorgeous co-host Alexander Storm. It's always a pleasure, and I am, of course, the other sexy, gorgeous co-host, Chet Maddox. You can find me on the internet. This is where I am. It's where I am. But hey, we know that 90% of you or more aren't going to subscribe. And so we have decided not only on Toy Box Chronicles, not on Retro Rewind Club, and not on just the Shadow Crew podcast, but we've decided across the entire entity of the company to make subscribing free for the next 6 months. So you can literally go onto our website or YouTube right here and click subscribe, and we won't charge you for it. It's free. How about that? How do you feel about that, Storm?
It's 100% free.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, that
100% free. Yeah,
was like the greatest deal of the century, brother.
right. It's got to be. It's got to be fantastic. We have got some great news to get into, so I want to just kind of jump in, and you know a little bit more about this than I do. I tried to watch some of it, have not gotten there. I was distracted, and we'll get into that later. But Hasbro Pulse has come out with Build-A-Figure. Why don't you walk us through that a
Well,
little
the
bit?
beautiful thing about this week is like, one thing that Hasbro does well and does it a lot better than their competitors, other than probably McFarlane Toys, is they do a good job of having their fan streams. And they've so far, a couple of weeks ago, they did the Transformer one. This one was the Marvel Legends, and the 29th, the one day of the leap year, I got to give them credit. They're going to do a G.I. Joe classified one, and there will be some reveals. But the Marvel Legend ones, I've never been a huge Marvel Legend fan. Either I was, one way I collect Hasbro stuff, but it really wasn't Marvel Legends. A lot of Toy Biz stuff I did have, but so far, man, the stuff they've been doing for the Marvel Legends figure has really upped this game.
Yeah,
So let me just we'll go to the shared screen model. Let's see. They did a fan stream, and that was over this week on yesterday. Actually, it was the 20th, and
okay,
they have a couple of key things. They've got a build a figure series right here, but you'll notice some interesting characters. They've got Cable, so they've got another version of Cable. I know they've done several ones. This was the one that was kind of interesting to me. Is that is the superior Tony Stark Iron Man. I I hadn't seen. I know
yeah,
there was a comic based off the character, but see. So let's scroll through some of these characters. Icarus, one of the characters from the Eternals, but more comic accurate version. Let's put it like that.
yeah,
I love their packaging. They never quite went away from this, other than a couple, maybe think a wave or two.
yeah.
Um, but
I do agree with you on this packaging. Like
mhm.
what I like about it, and Chris and I have talked about this over on the RRC. Um, I personally believe that the best toy packaging in the world existed with Playmates and Ninja Turtles back in the day.
Yeah,
the
Mhm.
card, the blister, and that's it. And what I like about the Marvel Legends is that it's pretty much just as simple. It's obviously a little bit more secure package, but it's basically the same concept. So
Mhm.
I do really like this window setup.
Yeah, and they do a good job with the artwork on the back of these as
Yeah,
well. I don't think they're just shot at that, but Icarus again, I know that the internal movie didn't do well, but this is more accurate version of Jack Kirby's internals from the comics. So, completely different entities, and I think that's a good thing about Marvel Legends. You can
yeah,
distinguish between the two. Black Winter Thor, interesting rendition. Now, this is a build a figure line, and that's from Kazar's character. I think that's
Zab-
Kaboo or,
Zabu.
or Zabu. There you go,
Yeah,
Zabu. His saber-tooth tiger. So it's a builder figure for a tiger. Now that I got to be honest with you, I didn't think that that was a really good idea. I don't want to build an entire tiger.
yeah.
You know?
I don't know if I'm into that.
Yeah,
I think this is a figure that should have just been made.
I think, yeah, do
Uh,
it as like they did the first time. Just do it as a double pack. Those characters belong to one another.
yeah,
But again, of course, hey, Hasbro's a corporation. They're going to try to make money. I more than understand it, but it just didn't work. Now, this is in no way, shape, or form other than maybe one of the weapons kind of looks similar to what Rob Liefeld did, but this looks like a different artist rendition of them.
yeah,
And if you're big in the X Force, this is probably a doer. I really do like the character. I like the aesthetics. I like the colors. And it just looks a really cool character. Comes with some great accessories too. So
yeah.
that's the one thing about Marvel Legends. They do not cheap out on the accessories.
No, I mean they're good. They and then whenever they do accessory packs, it's even better.
Now, this was one of my low key favorite characters. One, because he's a ripoff of Tarzan. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
But he exists in a better area than Tarzan. He stays in the savage land in Antarctica. It's kind of like a little bit of a like Jurassic Park kind of lost world kind of scenario.
yep,
Um, but he's got some, look for a guy that basically is just wearing a loincloth for technically. They gave two sets of hands, a knife, and then of course, his and then staff or a spear. So, like
yeah.
again, even though he's lacking on a lot of aesthetics, I like the hair. I think is really cool, but they give you some good accessories, man.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
what I okay, so I can appreciate this one a
yeah,
lot, and the reason why I say that is, I mean, I've always liked him, like definitely for reasons you've said,
hmm
Tarzan ripoff, but to just see how they were able to like do a pretty naked like action
yeah,
figure.
exactly.
Like it's not that bad. It's like
No,
the lines and things aren't distracting
no.
from the figure itself. So I think they did a really good job.
And the awesome thing about this one too is that look at the articulation. You can just, that's one of the few things when you do have the closed characters and everything, you don't really get to see the amount of articulation that they've just kind of done in the last 20 years. And this
Yeah.
character exhibits it all, man. So
Yeah.
great looking character. That's probably one of the few that I'll buy out of this series. Wolf Bane from the X Force. Uh, I remember that character in the 90s.
Yeah.
Very good looking character too. Well, a little bit more. I think it's the body of the cat this one round. So it's interesting. But then Red Widow, good actual character sculpt design. Not too familiar with the character as much. But again, like I said,
Good
it's
sculpt.
beautiful work, man.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
really good sculpt.
that like the Marvel team does great jobs on their characters. It's I think they're just as good as the classified characters.
Yeah.
And then we're working with Superior Iron Man. I remember the comic. I didn't read it that much, but I do remember the concept from it. But this is just another nice alternative version to Tony Stark. It's just like
Yeah, I
wow.
mean, I think this is a good is a good piece if you're Iron Man collector.
hmm
I think it becomes like a staple in your collection. Is it the one that's going to be worth the most later on? Not, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I do think it's something that should be if you're a Tony Stark slash Iron Man collector. I think that this definitely needs to be in your collection.
And I have, you and I both know there's collectors out there that have every Iron Man suit. This is just
Ever,
another one to add to your shelf. So, and it's completely different from the other one. So that's a nice little kick on that.
Yeah.
And then obviously, when you can buy all those characters, you can put together. Now, look, I will say it has great articulation.
Yeah, it's actually better than
Because
I thought.
back in the days, these were like, if you look at like the Motu universes, Battlecat's just a statue.
Yeah,
You know,
but
this,
awesome.
yeah, it's awesome statue, but this one, the mouth is articulated, the arms, I think the only thing it looks like they didn't do is each individual paw. That
Yeah.
just, but again, a great character, man. I got to give them credit for this. They
Y-
also introduced some other things through it, but we'll just kind of briefly glance and talk about those. Let's see.
Do you think
Yeah.
that this is like a test run on how well Marvel can do animals?
I've got to imagine it probably is. Well, they've done some in the classified line though, because they've done Mutton Junkyard that looked extremely good. They did Spirit with Freedom, his eagle, and that was an amazing sculpt.
Yeah.
So, and then also Snake Eyes with Timber. So they've been building up, but this is probably one of the larger animals I've seen them do, because all those other, even though they're articulated well, they're extremely small compared to the size of this cat.
But it's the same scale, right? It's scaled at the same scale as Legends.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're same scale.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's gonna be. I
They
so
had.
here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to buy all of them for the cat, but I would
No.
buy the cat.
Exactly, and I'm sure that if you go onto any site that has an auction
Mhm.
or whatever, we don't want to give those guys, those scalpers out there, a little bit of hype. But you can go on there. I'm sure that cat will, like, 2 months will be up fully, because there's some people that love the characters, some people hate the builder figures, some people only chase the builder figures. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be easy to buy, and that's the same way around. I can't see myself. There's a couple of characters I just not would not buy just to
Yeah.
build a cat. It'd be a waste of my time to do it. So I don't know if this line, this builder figure line, was that appealing. They did a re-release on Deadpool that came with the scooter, and
I saw
I
that, and the
think the
dog.
dead dog, and
Dead
I
dog,
think
yeah.
it was a monkey or a squirrel or
Yeah.
something. And that one was pretty cool. They did a blister card Deadpool, which was really nice. And then I think they also showed some VHS releases. Doctor Strange was one of them.
Mhm.
So again, all the stuff. Now, again, I have a friend of mine who's out there as well, that he's been collecting all the VHS ones, and
Mm.
the boxing and all the rest of stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
They really upped their game. Now that's more or less a closed packaging kind of scenario,
Yeah.
but they still up their game to it, because I think a lot of people remember, especially if you're our ages, what VHS tapes look like.
Oh yeah, man.
So
I think that's almost like perfect packaging, to be honest.
it's a nostalgia factor in it, but it's a good nostalgia factor.
Yeah, I to be honest, I think it's great. I am all about the idea of the build a figure cat,
Hmm, hmm.
but I would just buy the cat. But it wasn't as exciting for me as the page punchers from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, hmm, hmm. True.
But I don't know. I don't know, man.
And like I said again, while some of these are like, maybe the blister card Deadpool I may pick up. I know Kizar I'm definitely picking up, because he's
Yeah,
one of my favorite characters. But I don't have a real interest in the other characters in this wave. So again, it's to each their own. This I'm sure that's the good thing about having this. But I don't know if they should like relegate a lot of these characters to build a figure. I don't, and I just didn't also see the like, I understand if they did an X-Force kind of one, and they had like a builder figure that was an X-Force member, and you picked up the entire line. These characters were kind of oddly kind of shifted across different genres, different groups and everything. So I don't know how well that works as a builder figure.
yeah. I mean, we'll see. Um, I think there's a lot of stuff on Hasbro Pulse that hit that I'm excited about. I think it's good. We've talked about this many a times. Transformers GI Joe mashups are probably going to get a lot of your money and a lot of my
Oh
money.
yeah, most definitely.
But in terms of like creative mashups and just like creative ideas for toys, there is a YouTuber, toy YouTuber. that is releasing his own toy, which I'm excited about it. For those that are wondering what YouTuber we're talking about, definitely talking about Mad Hatter, and he is releasing
Kickstarter.
on Kickstarter. The you could go now. I think he has it on his YouTube page, but you can
Mhm.
go now and you can sign up to be notified when the Kickstarter goes live. Uh, what do you know about this so far? Like,
So
what have you been able to figure out?
So here's the thing, and there's this one aspect that I was one of my buddies asked, he said, "You guys gonna put another YouTuber's information up on your site?" I'm like, why not? I don't understand, he does the same thing that we do. It's like what makes the sense if I see something that's cool, we're gonna
Yeah.
mention it. So we're gonna mention to head over to Mad Hatter Reviews
Yep.
and check out his work because he's in California, so it automatically gets love from us. But the
Yep.
second thing he's just a funny, a very interesting guy, and I just every time I enjoy his work. And when I saw his Flipor, a character that he created, and it looks
Yeah.
like a much better version, articulation wise, of a
Yep.
Motu figure,
Yep.
but it's also his persona of Flipper Frank. So he created his own different version of an action hero, and it's very funny because he has that kind of sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that we have to do in the toy community a little bit more is promote each other. The space is open for everyone. It doesn't make sense. I notice some people have a dead point, like, hey, I'm not going to do this. We all want to do collabs with people and everything else. Share the love. You never know if you got a product. If anybody
Well,
else out there has a product, they shoot it over to us.
well,
If it's good, we'll show you love.
yeah, here's the bullshit thing about that. Like I like look, Mad Hatter is giving me like hours and hours of entertainment news I didn't know about. You could make the argument that we're in the same space, and yeah, we are. But there's also everyone collects toys. Everyone has different approaches on it, and I'm with you. Like compared to Mad Hatter, like we're nowhere yet. But it
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
matter because
yeah.
he is releasing a toy that I personally think
Hmm.
is fantastic, and this is all about toys. And so, like, why wouldn't we talk about it? This concept of like you're a YouTuber, or you're doing this, or you're a live streamer or whatever, and
Hmm.
you shouldn't talk about other people's, like I'll never have that mentality. Like
Yeah, and
it's
there's
it's
enough
it's
room for
good.
everybody, brother. There's
Yeah,
enough room for
absolutely.
everybody. And again, when I see something that it immediately, when I saw it this week, I laughed out loud. It was extremely hilarious. And he has a great sense of humor. His videos are always entertaining. But this was something that was also just unique because, again, as everybody in this space does, like everybody wants to have their own merchandise and do their own kind of things. And so, I think it's that we support one another. And I know several other YouTubers have had, like, products that they put up. Some of those
Hmm.
campaigns didn't work out too well. Maybe, sometimes I think in the space, sometimes a little jealousy gets involved or something, and who cares? Put
Yeah.
out something cool. I'm gonna purchase it. He has a
Yep.
great sense of humor. Thing I also love is another up and coming toy company, Ramen Toys, Ace over at Ramen Toys, which we have a affinity and love for
Oh
Ace
yeah.
over Toys. He's doing the production on this. And look, I'm still waiting for my ramen racer when that shows up because that thing is going to be sitting on my shelf. When he does his bread truck, that will be sitting on my shelf. Flipor will be
Yeah.
probably sitting on my shelf and everything.
I
So
mean,
I'm
look, I for sure am going to be purchasing that.
yes.
It's such a fun. It's super fun. It maybe it'll be expensive, who knows? But at the same time, like,
I,
you
I
know,
I think I saw for the entry model version of it, I think it was like $39.
yeah, it's not bad.
And that's not technically bad because we know this is not going to be something that's going to sell into the hundreds of thousands of toys.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like it's one of those things. And from what he's saying too, it's a one off. He's going to do this once, this character, and then chances are we probably won't see it again. So, you know, I think it's just the entertainment factor. A lot of times I do Kickstarter campaigns for some great graphic novels out there,
Yep.
And if you enjoy the work, see it and everything. And I think that the Mad Hatter is one of those individuals. He's built up a loyal following. I know a lot of people have worries and fears about Kickstarter,
Oh
Indiegogo,
yeah.
the people not fulfilling their campaigns. I don't think he's going to put his reputation on the line by not fulfilling it. Come on.
He won't do that. I have had I've had bad experiences with Kickstarter, but you know this, and people who've been following me for a long time also know that I had my own Kickstarter that failed once. I took what I learned from that shit and I relaunched it, and it was successful, and launched a board game company for me that's like worldwide. And so when it comes to like Kickstarters, like the way I tell people to look at Kickstarter is like, if you think it's great, then invest in it. And an
Exactly.
investment is only done with money that you don't care about losing.
Hmm.
And that's how you have to look at Kickstarters. Like, I have a budget I keep on Kickstarter. Unfortunately, nothing good has really hit Kickstarter in a long time. But
Yes.
like, even if this flipboard character gets to like $200, or if there's like a crazy version of it, if
Hmm.
it's good, I'll fund it, because it's not, like I said, it's literally got to be money that you're okay losing, because there unfortunately are some like a-holes out there that
Hmm.
launch Kickstarter. And that's why that specifically though is why I don't use Indiegogo, because Indiegogo,
Yeah.
fund or not, you lose your money, which I don't
Yes.
agree with. I
Hmm.
don't agree with.
Yeah.
I want it to be funded and then you screw me over, instead of me just giving you money and then nothing happens anyways.
Hmm.
Because you could just
But
run a campaign and just take money and bounce.
there has to be a credibility factor.
Yeah.
And again, there's certain aspects of this where, yeah, it's like the stock market. Do you go and, basically gonna kill your stockbroker because, you put some money in P&G and it went wrong? No, you just basically, it's a gamble.
Yep.
You would like to hope that everybody has a great ethics, and every now and then you run into somebody that doesn't. Okay, you live and you learn. But if
Yep.
you enjoy it, you think it's cool. Not again, entry point of just the one figure, $39. I know he has different levels of it. When the Kickstarter goes live, look, go over to Kickstarter, sign up for it. See for yourself if you're gonna purchase it. If
Also,
it's something that you're gonna laugh about.
it is a big deal that Ace from Ramen Toys is overseeing it. I want
Exactly.
to point that out. That's a big deal, because like Ramen Toys, their reputation is like, we talked about this in Friday in the Shadow Crew, but we talked about how um like they were told to kind of like stop with like
Hmm.
M.A.S.K,
Yeah.
and then they said, actually just change these and you can keep going. So
Mhm.
so I think it's big. I think it's big for Ace.
Yeah.
Um so I know we only have a few more topics before we get into the main one,
One thing.
but we need to talk about McFarlane Toys.
Yes. It
The
seems like this is
there's
going to be consistent week to week thing for
Yeah,
McFarlane, won't it?
this and here's the thing. I have a little surprise about this topic as well. Let me share the screen. So, okay,
Okay.
so for those of you who don't know what we're talking about or know what we're talking about, I'll just say it out there anyways. For those of you that aren't watching, I apologize, but you should probably subscribe and like and follow and thumbs up, because that's just the way it is. And we're on a bunch of different platforms live all the time. So enjoy us where you may. Stay sexy every day and subscribe. Get it?
Hmm.
Okay. Anyways, it's not like anyone's gonna do it. Okay, here. So McFarlane Toys, they are releasing this figure, which is the Batman figure for the Detective Comics number 27.
Which is his first appearance, if the people out there don't know.
Yeah, which is the Batman first appearance, which is why if you look at this figure, it does look. Let me see if I can actually make this bigger, because there we go. All right. So if we look at this figure, I like it. The cowls on that on Batman's head are they're further apart to
Mm.
match with the comic. And then his the articulation looks like it's like on par. I love the boots. I think that's fantastic. But I just don't understand why the circulation is cut off on his hands so much that they're purple.
Yeah, this one it seemed a little odd to me when it. I think it's a slight. Every now and then, McFarlane will have something kind of like like the '89 Batmobile with the canopy issues.
Oh, so
There's
good.
always something that kinda like, gets past quality control, and I thought that these hands were just a tad bit too purple,
Yeah,
but I like the sculpt. I don't think the ears quite look as well as the or are basically underdeveloped as the
comic.
27, actual one. So I think Todd's a little off on that, but it looks like maybe this might be his rendition of the character instead of like a full on because that character was Bob Kane's art style was a little bit different back
Yeah.
then too. So but other than that, I think there's a lot of great, and I like that this looks like it's going to be a cloth cape.
Yeah, no, it looks like a cloth cape with metal in it to kind of like pose it, which is fantastic. But I wanted to show you something else. So if you
Okay.
we got to zoom in on these hands real quick.
Okay.
They look like they just don't belong on Batman. I
Yeah.
get it. Like if you look at Detective Comics 27 and
Mhm.
you watch through, like, he does have gloves on, which is
Mhm.
why I needed to find this to bring this up on this cast. This is DC's direct 2004 version of basically the same thing that we're looking at.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the cows on this one, they're pretty accurate.
They're
They're
pretty
pretty
accurate.
accurate. But if we go down and look, like, they did the gloves the right way.
Yes. Mhm. Well, I think also it looks like as McFarlane because I know he's moved into more articulated hands, and I know like you can
For
they
the
bend
wrist.
in and bend out for the wrist and everything else like that. So I'm thinking that maybe that was just an issue there, but yeah, most definitely this one looks more classic to the actual appearance of Batman in Detective Comics number 27 compared to McFarlane. McFarlane, it could be just his rendition of the character and a little bit of ab lib from him.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, that's about the price is about the same way that the chance are you can buy a McFarlane figure almost for.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it, but then they raised the
He
price, didn't
raised the
they?
rates. I don't know if this one's gonna go up. I know with the builder figures, they're gonna jump up a little bit more, but hey.
Well, are you gonna buy or let it fly? You think you're gonna get it?
Um, you know what? I'm a sucker for nostalgia, so yeah, there might be a good chance. But we'll see if it's one of those ones where it flies off if it goes up for Amazon or wherever, and it just flies off the shelf. I'm not gonna jockey around town and go through scalpers and the rest of this stuff to find it. But if it's an easily readily available toy,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll pick it up, man. You know,
Well, I have a question for you.
all right, brother.
So who would win and what's better, Mask or GI Joe?
Ooh, see, now that was the question of the week that we thought of. You know what? Now we're not talking about like the non-metaphysical version of them if they met in real life because obviously GI Joe has a whole entire battalion
Yeah, that
compared to the
yeah, that
mask. But
yeah,
we're
that
talking about toy lines.
toy
One,
lines.
the old Kenner line for Mask, which
Yep,
Kenner did a solid job, and this was like one of their pushes after Star Wars had kind of really ended.
it was. Yeah, they used the
So
Star Wars mold actually on some of
yeah.
them.
So I give them credit on it. And then there's the now we're debating on it either if you can go you look at 80s for 80s versions
Yeah,
because the only modern version that we have right now for Mask and it's not technically Mask is Ace over at Ramen Toys. And his new stuff looks fantastic. And
yeah,
I'm only thinking that Hasbro's allowing Ace over there to do this because they're testing the market to see if Mask can come back.
yeah.
And if Ace does well, again, they're a corporate entity. They're obviously going to do something. But so we're going to just strictly tonight do 80s for 80s.
Yep,
So we got several factors. We got number one, the figures.
yep,
Number two, the vehicles. Number three, the play sets. Number four, the overall collectability.
yep,
And number five, the staying power of both franchises. So figures for figures. The original 80s G.I. Joe was a 3 3/4 figure. I believe the masks were what about 2.5 inches, maybe.
I think they're two. I
I
think
think it's about 2.5 inches.
yeah, they're about 2.5.
Now it comes articulation. Obviously, GI Joe wins because he had so much more articulation than Mask.
Yeah,
Uh, but Mask is for the 2.5 inches. Those are some pretty good detailed characters, man.
yeah.
You
No,
know,
they're great. Yeah, I mean, but I don't know. Well, I guess articulation would have been a thing, right? Because GI Joe in the same time era
GI
had
Joe had,
articulation.
yeah, they had swivel arms, swivel bodies. They had the O-ring version of themselves. Their
Yeah, but
knees
if you
bent,
look at it too, though, the money behind GI Joe at the time was
obviously.
bigger than Mask,
Sure, because
right?
like I said, Kenner was a smaller company then,
Hmm.
and like, look, they were. This is where I think that the GI Joe wins round one for figures because
Yeah.
obviously they had a way larger team that
The
you actually could
the
assemble.
only argument I have against it is that every Mask figure had a helmet
True, true.
except for T-Bob.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean that was a big selling force, obviously, for Mask was that
Hmm.
they came with it, and I have mine. I could bring them over, a few of them over, and show you. But yeah, I think if you get slapped with reality, you have to admit it. And I think the figures, I think GI Joe wins that.
Now, so all right, so GI Joe gets the figures, but don't slouch on mass figures though, because
No, no,
again, they resell extremely high, and I
yeah,
think what makes the mass figures a little bit more unaccessible is that while GI Joe is everywhere and you can still find a lot of mint on cards and everything, Mask has been extremely hard to track down.
oh
So,
yeah,
and if you get immaculate figures with the helmets and everything else, you got to win right there. So, number
well,
two, we're going to jump on the vehicles. Now, this is where I think the GI Joe and Mask are dead locked in for a
yeah,
tie
yeah. I
because
mean,
the Mask vehicles were fantastic. You
yeah.
know,
It depends on what series,
well,
but
that's true.
but
Let's say
well, no, because
series
even
one, series one and series two were great. Series three is when the slack off started happening a little bit.
well, I was gonna say like even like even s- I'm not a fan of the racing ones.
Mhm.
We can get into Mask on
Sure.
that. But even like the racing vehicles were still awesome. They were still the way they transformed.
Yeah, but I think the good thing about the series one to series two, a lot of those were used in the mainstream 65 original episodes of the show, and
Yeah.
while series three was the last 10 episodes, and that was actually just to hunt those down. That was a little harder this week to hunt those last 10 down, comparably to you can go to Tubi and watch all the Mask if you want to watch all the Massive season one.
Yeah.
So, but vehicles, look, from everything from Rhino to Thunderhawk to,
Ooh,
all the great,
firecracker.
yeah, all the great vehicles. They look like standard vehicles, and then they shifted to something else. I had, Rhino. I had Thunderhawk. Marina.
Condor.
Yeah, we had a lot of the characters,
Yeah.
and the vehicles worked in it. While we also had a bunch of GI Joe vehicles,
Hmm.
but the one thing that mass vehicles worked out a little better were they were taken from everyday life vehicles. You could see, I believe that's a Freightliner tractor on the
Yep.
street painted in that color, basically.
Yep.
The early stuff in GI Joe, you could see some of that stuff. Then they got to a level where you're not going to see any of that stuff ever pop up from the military,
Yeah.
basically.
At all.
You know,
Yeah.
so but they were all great. All the vehicles, look, every character fit in all the vehicles. I remember Rhino even had the ejector seat like they had on the episodes of the cartoon, so you could put a character in and
Yep.
eject them out the door. um there's so many great ones. Thunderhawk, the gold wing doors popped up.
So good.
They had, or it was all there. They were spring action. They worked. A lot of those toys still work.
Yeah.
um when it comes to GI Joe, same thing. A lot of those vehicles are still around. So this is a dead tie for me when it comes to vehicles. Not one is better than the other.
Yeah. I would say for me, the only reason why I would feel M.A.S.K takes the vehicle is that I agree with you on every aspect.
Mhm.
I think it's definitely there. I think there's a valid argument either way around. But why I think M.A.S.K pulls a little bit ahead is because like it's just vehicles that they came up with, right? They weren't like military vehicles. They didn't have any help. They just said like, "Hey, let's take this buggy and turn it into like a glider."
Mhm.
You know, let's take this motorcycle, turn it into like a helicopter, or this freaking Trans Am IROC Z and turn it into like a flying whatever. But I mean, that's my opinion. I've always in there's definitely like let me just say there's definitely bias towards that because I've
Oh,
you
for
know
sure.
me I
Mhm.
love the M.A.S.K line, um, but it's also easy for me to agree that they're dead center on vehicles.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one thing too, is that if they did do a modern day mask line, it'd be interesting the updated vehicles.
Oh
Because,
yeah,
you're
especially
looking
if it's
from vehicles caught in the '80s and everything. So motorcycles changed, cars changed, choppers changed. So if they really did get you see like a Tesla tractor now being Rhino or something, it'd be completely different. So that's the one thing I think is the updating, the modernization now. While I've got the his tank sitting on the shelf, and while they have the Dragonfly, but
mm,
the Dragonfly still kind of looks a little similar to the '80s version, the new classified. So we're gonna have to see some of the modern updating. The his tank is still kind of the his tank. So, the mass vehicles I think would go through a really completely different change. I would see more or less what we see probably the Mercedes Benz as the Thunderhawk now. What would we see? So I
you'd see a Tesla Model X
I hope not.
as a Tesla Model X with Thunderwing doors, but the battery would die by the time it takes off, so it
Yeah,
would just fall down and
Mad Tracker would be a little bit in trouble.
yeah,
So
Matt Tracker and his son.
So we can give maybe a slight edge in vehicles due to being actual realistic vehicles and a little bit more imagination. Mask vehicles were more like Transformers a little bit,
Yeah,
but you had characters with it, so it was
yeah.
a little bit. So we can give a slight edge to Mask. Playsets
Yeah,
wise,
that's all I'm saying is just slight
yeah, no,
edge.
I agree with you on that one. Um, number
Playset wise, I can't decide. I'm gonna tell you right now.
yeah,
You could make the argument to be like, well, oh, what the hell are you talking about, Jetmatics? Like GI Joe has more playsets. Okay, well we're talking about a specific era. Okay, so you didn't listen to the first part of this podcast, and the second thing is like the playsets for both of these were awesome.
yeah.
Like they were like Boulder Hill. That's my jam.
Yeah, well, while Mask has one play set, and basically, they never really got around to making it, but it is probably in the '80s. There's probably, let's be honest, there's probably three premium play sets
From that era,
from
yes.
that era. I
Gray
would put
Skull.
Mask, Castle Grayskull, and the GI Joe flag.
Yep. That's it.
Those are the three holy grail major play sets that redefined how we think about play sets.
Yeah.
And so on that one, I you know, I would say as much as the USS flag is the most impressive place that you'll probably ever see ever produced. And
7 feet of it.
the only thing I would say would comprehend next to that would probably be Jar Jar's barge that he did a haslap on, because that was like majorly awesome as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
from the '80s era, the flag, like, you would want both. You would want Boulder Hill sitting in your on your cabinet, and you would probably be sitting Boulder Hill on top of the flag. To be honest with
That's what I
you,
was gonna say, and let's be honest, like, you just built Boulder Hill on top of the flag.
yeah. Well, how many people have like 7 feet to
Yeah.
put something in?
One end was Boulder Hill, and the other one was Castle Grayskull, and Motu and M.A.S.K were fighting in the middle
And now
on
when you start seeing all these massive play sets now, look, if it wasn't for the Boulder Hills, if it wasn't for the Castle Grayskulls or the USS flags, you would not be getting things like the Eternia play set
Yep.
updated as large as it is. You would not be getting the massive Cat's Lair that's coming to some people's houses. So,
That's
those two franchises right there, I can't pick and choose between the both. I'm gonna split that right down the middle. I would take both of them, no matter how much money they both each really cost. You know, would I want them both mint in the box? No, those are meant to be displayed.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I am on the hunt for Boulder Hill right now. We've talked about it.
yeah,
I want it. I think, but the other thing I think is fascinating that we talked about um, was if if they were to relaunch
yes,
Mask at a 6 scale, how big I mean, like, let me grab my Mask figure real quick
okay,
so we can show like the size, because there's probably someone that's watching that doesn't know what we're talking about. But
exactly.
let me grab just like one of them so we could show the size of the vehicle and the figure. And then
Okay,
when we talk about like going up 6 scale, that's basically
exactly.
almost like
It's
that's
classified
probably,
level.
yeah. Let me
Mhm.
grab that real quick.
All right, brother. So while Mr. Maddox is grabbing his mask figures, if you like this kind of content, again, you can always hit the subscribe button, get the word out to everybody else that, hey, Wednesday nights is the place to be at 7 p.m. Every Wednesday night, we're going to be here. If you tune in on Friday nights, you'll get a different cast, but all four of our major compadres will all be
Yeah.
here. So, thank you for tuning in.
All right. So this is a Mask figure.
Yeah. I
I
like how
do.
you got the little stand to it too,
Yeah,
man. I know.
I do. I have decided that I started making these stands. I'm going to sell them.
Uh,
So, but
yeah, that's nice.
this is like a standard Mask figure. That is not very tall.
No, no, not at all.
That is probably,
But a lot of detail still.
yeah. It's literally like this.
Yeah,
But look how much details in this.
yeah, wow.
I don't know if you can see that. There you
Yeah.
go.
Is
Like,
that Condor's
yeah,
driver?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I thought so. Yeah.
yeah. It's Condor's driver,
Mhm.
and then here's his mask.
Yeah, a lot of detail.
A
Hmm.
lot of detail in that. So there's a lot of detail in those, and then like if this is
Exactly.
his
Motorcycle.
thing. This is
Hmm.
his motorcycle. It transforms. You guys can see it. It's got. I mean, this is in really good condition. Now you take this, and this fits in Boulder Hill. This
Yeah.
goes into Boulder Hill. You turn that into 6 scale, and it's just too much money.
Yeah. Well, you could put it, but you're gonna have to do the same thing they did with like the Castle Lair. There's no way that Super 7 massive Thunder Tank is ever fitting in the Castle Lair. It's
No,
impossible. You would basically be a room to itself if you basically did that. So I could think you could get, they could make a motorcycle 60 scale to get in there. Maybe if they redo Thunderhawk, you get him in there. There's no way you're going to be able to make that big enough to put Rhino in. That's not happening.
no,
You know,
yeah,
they
Rhino
would
would.
be.
I'm going to be honest with you too. Like, I hope if they relaunch Mass,
Oh
they
yeah.
start with Rhino, because I
Oh,
have like $2,000 set aside for that.
let me tell you something. They would almost have to start with Rhino because Rhino would be like the most expensive version of
Yeah,
the
it
mask
would
toy.
either they're either going to have to kick it off with Rhino, because even
Hmm.
though Matt Tracker was like was it, and it was him and Thunderhawk, like,
But see, you forgot though in the original mask with Rhino. Remember, he had the alternate Matt Tracker suit because
yeah,
it
yeah.
came with three characters. It came with Matt Tracker, the driver. I can't remember his name, but he was always giving out metaphors, and then they had the doctor. So it
Mm.
came with three characters, but Matt Tracker was part of that Rhino set. He was in an alternate version of his
Yeah,
suit. I think mask was
it
different.
was gray and yellow.
Yeah, it was different, but
Yeah.
so they would probably still do Matt Tracker. So and then you got to think about what would be their tiers. They probably would start it off with like Matt Tracker, and then they would probably tier up if you get to this level, you could get this character unlocked and that character
I
unlocked,
would just keep going.
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely. So, um,
All right.
so
Well,
the
I wanted to show that because we were talking about play sets.
definitely,
Like, I just it's important to understand that these are tiny.
yes,
But
yes.
when you think about overall collectability, where do you land on Mask versus GI Joe?
I think overall collectability, I think GI Joe has a slight edge on one aspect. It's more readily accessible.
Okay.
I think you can go to so far. I don't know. Again, if we're ignorant about this, shoot us in the comments. I don't know if there's a mass convention that's been going on lately from the 80s where you can go and there's a readily amount available of toys and everything. Normally I see them at like GI Joe conventions, and I know
Yeah.
there's a bunch of GI Joes. There's a great one here in Temecula they do all the time. But so I think accessibility wise, you could pretty much walk into a lot of conventions and walk out with a lot of GI Joe,
Yeah.
whether the vehicles or the characters. Now, what makes Mask a little bit harder accessible, but value wise makes it better. You're not going to find Mask, especially mid condition box mask stuff. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
That's
So
few and far between.
I think the accessibility factor of overall collectability, if you want to jump in a line and you say, I wanted to grab something from the 80s, you could do that with G.I. Joe. Mask, you could do it, but the problem of it is one, it's a major, you've really got to love Mask
Yeah.
because you're going to spend some major bucks on Mask,
Yeah.
and then it's like, well, are you going to get the condition
That you
uh
wanted in, because
that
you
you
got,
want?
yeah, because Mask too, like everyone, no one kept the stickers on the sheets.
No,
And so
everybody put on visuals.
everyone put them on the vehicles, and so define them where the stickers aren't completely falling. I mean, and you definitely have websites that have
Mhm.
sticker sheet printables,
Sure.
but at the same time, like to find them where the stickers are in like good condition. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
But here's the thing, I don't want to be so discouraging to people out there. If you really want it, then hey, look, they're great to display.
Yeah,
The vehicles are still, it's like a throwback to the good days in the 80s when those, because tractors and the cars don't all look the same.
yep.
But it is a great collectible. It's just that you got to know that when you get in this, it's not going to be something where you think a couple of $100 and you got the collection. It's
No, no, no,
maybe a couple of
no.
vehicles may cost, just the vehicle itself may cost you several $100.
Well, and I decide it's taken me like 6 months to decide that I was just gonna start building the
Yeah.
collection back up.
Mhm.
And even now, it's like, yeah, I look at something. It's not, if you want Rhino with just two figures, it's $445,
Yeah. Oh no,
and
it's
that's
it's
and
not
that's
$4.
without box. You
Mhm.
want the box? It's like an additional fucking 150 whatever dollars. So
I know, and that's the sad thing about the Kenner aspect. And this is why, again, with Hasbro, with their purchase of Kenner, and now they're doing Star Wars and all these other things they've been doing for years. This is a series. I don't know what we have to do to tell them you need to
dude.
bring the series back out. You need to do something with this series. Don't let it sit.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
it, the- in the and in the realm of just like good cartoons for kids
Mhm.
now, like we're running short. And
Yes.
what was great about what I like why we're talking about Mask versus GI Joes, because also at the end of every Mask they had like a public service
Yeah,
announcement.
yes, they
Remember
did.
that? Like in like the first
Absolutely.
episode, it's Matt Tracker playing baseball with his son, and he's like, "Remember, kids,
Mhm.
don't always just run out in the middle of the street because you never see a car coming." But
Exactly.
like that was like a classic thing back in the day. See, I overall collectability for me, it's hard because I really like Mask, but I think in the same vein, the same era, like toy for toy, to find pristine GI Joe figures and pristine GI Joe like vehicles in that era. While there may be a lot of them, you watch these other toy stores that are like massive, and they
Mhm.
buy broken ones just to build
Oh
good
yeah, just to go
ones.
one. Mhm,
So
exactly.
so I think it's actually pretty fair in terms of like finding a collectible, something worth being part of the collectible, right?
Mhm.
I do think scarcity of Mask though is what tips it for me, but
Mhm.
it's a rough one for me because like also like who's gonna buy the flag?
Well, there's a lot of people, but look, if I had the space or something to
Yeah,
display something like that, maybe. But again, 7 feet is it's not. It's like the flag is a museum piece.
yeah,
Like it's like if I went down to downtown LA, went to the Peterson Museum. Like the Batmobile's not sitting in my garage,
yeah,
But if I go to the Peterson Museum and see it, everything is nice. Boulder Hill can sit in my house and it'd be like a little bit more accessible to have
yeah,
people over. I'm eating dinner on the flag, technically,
yeah. You make your table out of
so, but
it.
overall collectability, I think accessibility, GI Joe wins, but I think like you're a pure collector if you're going after Mask. You're
Yeah.
not a novice guy that just walks in there and just say, "Hey, this is something." So I think when it comes to just pure collectability, yes, Mask has a way better edge than GI Joe. Now, our fifth category in this is staying power, and this is a 100% deadlock
Yes.
because Mask is not on the shelves due to its unpopularity. It's some design or something. There must be something that at Hasbro going on. There's just a reason why it's not out. You
Yeah,
know,
I would
it
agree.
because the popularity's still there. Again, you can go to Tubi, you can watch G.I. Joe Real American Hero from the 80s, and you can turn around and watch Mask.
Yep.
And we did that the entire week.
Yep.
So you can they're easily accessible. Both franchises, when they mentioned Mask, people all over, whether it's Instagram or on X or wherever, everyone was chatting in like, "Oh, Hasbro, what are they going to do?" The popularity still, so the staying power on both of them, GI Joe and Classified, they're selling crap load of like HasLabs and everything. Look, just go ahead and do it, Hasbro. HasLab us some Mask toys, man. Come on.
And people also don't like. I think that people. I was trying to find I have the Mask comics. I think I'm missing like issue
Mhm.
1. No, I miss issue 3 or whatever. But the comic books were actually really good.
Now the comics were from DC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I know, like now, look, while the early editions of I think some of the GI Joe from Marvel were great and everything, and also this new run, if you're not reading the stuff that Larry Hama's doing over at Skybound on the latest extenuation of the original series, that's also fantastic too. But that's where Mask is kind of like, I don't understand, why they aren't, because I think if you're going to test it in comic format, see if it comes
Yeah.
back. Test a new animated show, maybe. You
Well,
know,
they did so the original, like, I want to be clear though, like the original Mask, like the original issues of Mask were DC Comics, but they did do a relaunch with IDW.
okay.
Yeah, I don't remember. Let me see if I can find the year for IDW. Um,
Well, I know at one
yeah,
point
I don't.
IDW was just grabbing up everything, man. So
Yeah. No, it's not like it was good.
yeah, that's the
Um,
one issue that's always been an issue of mine from the middle of the road franchises that the artwork quality wasn't always in there. Sometimes the writing was, but not always the artwork.
yeah. So the listed. I don't know. I don't remember the year. So if anyone knows the year, go ahead and let us know below in the comments. I don't remember what it was, but I do know that the IDW versions weren't as good as the original DC run. So, you know what I think is that they tried that additional run maybe to see if there's going to be interest, but the problem
Mhm.
is the writing wasn't good.
Well, not even that though. It's just like right now we were talking about IDW if we're going to realm of comics, and then remember over at Dynamite they just released Thundercats. Well, maybe it's time to retest to see how Mask does on the market with better writing, some better artists. And I think that I'm sure you can probably, and also with the modern day storyline and storytelling, I think you can do a lot more of a Mask as the Mobile Armored Strike Command. A little bit more now that you could do. I think the writing would work, especially in
Yeah,
today's world where vehicles. And look, we actually do have like motorcycles that turn into helicopters or
yeah,
cars that fly, and we're getting to that point. So you could easily do a series based around a group that uses that, man.
yeah. And I mean, like the premise of Mask has endless stories
Yes,
to be told,
it
right?
does. And
So,
you know what? Maybe since we saw over Transformers: Rise of the Beast, and he had that GI Joe connection, maybe at one point we could see a Transformer GI Joe mass connection.
I'm
You
in
know,
it. I'm all on that. So, when you think about the overarching question,
Mhm.
Mask versus GI Joe, you want me to give you my take, or you want to give your
Yeah,
take first?
go your take, brother. You can roll first.
I think you have very specific people for very specific collections.
True.
Because I know some people that collect GI Joe that only collect GI Joe that are the 3 and 3/4 figures. They don't go any bigger. They just want all of that, and then they're typically like satisfied. And then I do know some people that spend a boatload of money to get like the GI Joe figures, and whether or not they're carded, and then also the box with the vehicles. So on that same note, I know that there's people that do that for masks. For
Mhm.
me, I think it's just you got to pick which one's better for you. Which one
Yeah.
you feel more drawn to. For me, it's Mask. I appreciate GI Joe 1,000%. I appreciate what it did for the toy industry, storytelling, things like that. I had growing up as a kid, it helped me grow up a little bit. But you know, for me, it's dead center on what the question is: Mask versus GI Joe. I think it's even. For
I
me,
think
I chose a pass of going for Mask.
I will give you the same thing. I think, I'm a person that enjoys both lines. I would probably, like I said again, I was debating on the point of doing the ramen toys versions of them, but then I thought at one point, you know what? I think Hasbro's going to do a line. I think I better wait for that line. Although I like to support ramen toys as much as I can, but I just want to see what Hasbro's going to do in an updated version because I think that's going to come. But I think it's like you can't. These are one of the two toy lines. It's not like it's, and we're going to do something down the line too, folks. We're going to do a GoBots versus Transformer one, and that's going
Yeah,
to be a pretty bad one. But
yeah,
this one you can't. There's no winners and losers here.
no,
If if the one thing that I will say that makes Mask a little bit more has the edge is you're going to hunt for Mask. So when you get a Mask item, you're probably going to appreciate that a little bit more because it's easily readily available for more GI Joe 80s
yep,
stuff. And again, why is there not a major mass convention? Why are there not if they are happening, let us know. Go over to
yeah,
Instagram to the Shadow Nose network. Let us know if there's mass conventions out there because look, I'll fly in somewhere to go attend one.
yeah. I'll be at a mass convention, and I'll walk out with my U-Haul truck full.
I have never even seen anybody actually go to a convention cosplaying as a mask character because you can make those masks pretty
I
easily
mean, it's
with
gonna happen now that you said that,
yeah,
homeboy. Like,
we got to see that
I'm
now.
gonna be Matt Tracker. All right, so I know we're wrapping up, and
Yes, we are.
we're on our last few minutes, and we talked about the last time what I was gonna unbox.
Mhm.
And I was super excited to unbox Batman animated series, but guess what, everybody? Because you didn't subscribe and you didn't thumbs up and you didn't like, we're gonna pause on that. But Mr. Storm, I got you a gift.
Okay, all right. Okay, then I know this is probably going to be something pretty epic. So
Yeah, I got you a gift. I was doing a little bit of toy hunting today,
okay,
and
never a
I
bad thing on
never a bad thing.
a good thing on a Wednesday.
No, yeah, it's a good thing on a Wednesday. And I was in there, and I was in this antique shop, and I was walking around. You came here for the Batman unbox. That is my bad, Chris. But this is and maybe we could do one, but I'm not gonna do all of it. But I don't know. But I'm a little bit more excited about this, and then I'll do all the Batman.
How about we save the Batman animated for the let's do like a Batman animated from the 90s and then
Okay.
Batman animated McFarlane. Let's do a little
Yeah. Okay.
special where
That's
we'll go
yeah.
back to
Yeah.
Zemna because I can pull a bunch of the
That's next
old
week.
Kenner stuff out. We'll
Yeah.
pull
That's
that out.
next. Yeah. Next week.
Batman versus Batman. Let's
Yeah.
just
Okay. So let me cut through the bullshit. I got you something that I didn't really know was made, and full behind the scenes. We've already kind of
yeah,
talked
we
about
have,
it,
yeah,
but here it is in all its glory.
yeah.
Look at that.
There you
I
go.
It's a Cobra GI Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
he's big. He's big.
That's how the line started in the 60s.
Yeah, he's big. The heads feels weird,
Yeah.
but look, it's got the guns.
Oh yeah, wow.
He's
Yeah.
got the knife,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
Well, I don't know if that's a knife or a stick. I think that's a stick. Well, he's got the stick.
The
The
baton,
knife,
probably. Yeah. Mhm.
the fingers move.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
His,
the old kung fu grip, huh?
yeah, kung
Yeah,
fu
yeah,
grip
yeah.
right here.
Mhm. Oh man, that's what's a little bit better than the kung fu grip,
Yeah,
brother.
his fingers move, and look at that.
Oh yeah, wow. The accessories.
The
That's what we
accessories,
love
my
about it.
friend.
Yep. Wow.
Anyways, I had to do it. We did our research. Turns out
Yeah.
this is 2007. You said,
Yes, sir.
yeah, 2007. I just don't remember there being Cobra ones, but this
Yeah,
is
it's very
very
rare
clean.
because I remember growing up and like when I was coming up, a lot of the older toys my uncles used to pass down, and there were some of the original. Well, it wasn't the '60s, but it was more the '70s version of when they had moved to the Adventure Team version of the Joes. So I
Yeah.
remember having that, and they would fight the $6 million man and crap like
Yep.
that.
Well, I was excited for it, my friend, and so that is a gift coming your way.
Appreciate it,
I need to send that to you. Again, I don't collect Joe. If there's a ton of value on this, you're welcome. Do what
Hey.
you will with it. You could sell it. I don't care.
No,
But
no,
I,
it
I
will go on the shelf along with all the other stuff, man.
but I saw it. I thought it was neat. It's a different piece. I was excited that the boots were there, that the guns were there, and so figure might as well pass that along. So I'll get this sent out to you
I
um
appreciate it, sir.
as soon as I can. Yeah.
Now, the good thing about it too, let's run up a little channel things. Well, one, uh, pretty soon you're going to see an intro to Toy Box Chronicles. We're working on it right now.
Yeah.
Since we don't have a ton of interns and everything else, that we have to
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff ourselves. And at one point as well in these episodes, there's a little bit of some retro toy stores that's been in the area. There's one in particular that I'm gonna try to get to, and we're gonna have a couple of clips in the middle of these things, so you'll be able to see us run like maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 minute kind of thing. We could get any retro toy stores or anything else that we'll throw into these episodes. There's a great series up on the Shadow Nose Network. If you haven't checked it out, but it is kind of starting to catch some fire. I've been looking at the analytics, and that's the Retro Rewind with Chris and Chet. Fantastic. Fantastic. First one, I believe, is 1985, right?
Yeah.
That's
1985.
toys of 1985
Yep.
look. And there are some gems that was gone through. I will
Yep.
tell you that.
And we try to keep it raw. We actually do a lot of like just live searching. The podcast isn't live, so
Yes.
it's not a live podcast. But when we do it, we're actually doing the research like live on the fly, and then we cut in some videos and some ads. So
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
the a lot of times when we do the live streams and everything so that look, there's a lot of pressure on live because you can't like basically have the editor clean that up or like Marvel says, cut that in post. We've actually kind of we got to fix it right there, right then. So it is kind of when you get a couple more clips, episodes, things like that jumped in to some of the pre-recorded stuff. So
Yep.
and on that pre-recorded notion. My absolute 100% partner in crime, writing wise, and everything else. Dr. Brentley and I do the retrospect, and there is a big retrospect now. If you've been watching the Shadow Crew podcast on Friday nights, you know that Dr. Brentley is an absolute huge Indiana Jones fan.
Yep.
So, as we were talking, like, what's the next retrospect? We had the Frankenstein monsters, or a lot of Universal Classic monsters, and then we did some Christmas ones, and then we had some assignments where we actually had to do some work. And but we're actually in the midst of recording one, and it's going to be an all inspired Indiana Jones. That means all the movies, the TV series, if there's any inspired indie ripoffs, we're actually going to be bringing that up. Video games, it's all on the table for this all in Indiana Jones retrospective is going to be coming for you guys.
I'm
So
so excited about that.
believe me, and there will be some cosplay, unfortunately. And I don't need to tell you who Dr. Brentley's going to be, but unfortunately, I'm relegated to a sidekick this time. So
That's a bummer. Odd job.
worse than that, brother. Worse than
Yeah.
that. Uh
Uh
if you're checking the site, you notice that when it said the Shadow Nose Network, now it's not basically we didn't name the network after him. He just had a little bit more influence. But people ask me all the time, well, what's Shadow doing? Well, you haven't been watching the site because Shadow knows. and he's been having some epic toy unboxings and also some field trips and toy hunts. And he did one that's particularly up right now to the Mattel actual headquarters in El Segundo. And if you think that, some of the exclusivities and the clearance stuff is good at Target and everything, well, wait till you see what Shadow finds at the actual Mattel headquarters in El Segundo, California. So that's the good thing about being in California. We can actually go to those type of situations. And
Yeah.
he's got another video that's going to be dropping on Thursday. So the main intent for him is to have videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays that we could see, but mostly, maybe one day of the week. So we'll see it. But he's working on some good stuff, man. He's working on some good stuff.
Yeah, and then we also have the new Top Wrestling with the Tech Master. So head over, watch that if you're into wrestling and you know what wrestling is. The Rock seems to be taking over in the world of WWE, so we'll see how that plays out. I will say that the promo The Rock kicked off was 1000%. I literally watched it and was like, what era of wrestling am I watching right now? Because The Rock is finally killing it back on the mic where he should be, because he already pissed off a lot of Hollywood. So now he's just look, hands down, I gotta tell you, it was one of the best promos ever.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I think the Tech Master has good insight on that. So
well, the Tech Master also was in his storage bin the other day, and I've known the Tech Master for a very long time, and he had at one point you used to go to his house and he had literally hundreds of like WWE figures.
Yeah.
And he's rediscovered some of those, and he may start doing some reveals on his own channel with some wrestling stuff. And I'm sure Shadow will probably join him for something like that as well too.
That's exciting. Yeah.
There you go.
And once you can obviously find all of our YouTube channels and podcasts and everything on the Shadow Knows Network. My own channel, my own stuff is also posted on there. So but yeah, this was fun. I looked forward to this. We are definitely, as you know, I am definitely building my mask collection.
I know.
I will slowly over time show it. I'm not going to show it all at once. But I am actually starting to sell all the mask figure stands on eBay, and then
you know what, we've got to definitely come up with a store,
Yeah.
where we can definitely get people to like, some of the stuff that we're into.
Oh yeah,
we put it up. We need to talk about that with the other members of the group.
Yeah, we have something. We have a lot of exciting news happening.
Yeah.
But you didn't come here for us to whore ourselves out. Instead, you came here to subscribe, and we appreciate everyone liking and subscribing, and we appreciate those that are coming and just watching anyways. Hopefully you're as entertained as we are, and if you're not, that's not our problem. So we will catch you guys all next week, or maybe the week after. It just depends on what we feel like. And so it's been great.
Oh,
I
blast,
enjoyed
brother.
it. Yeah,
Things were happening. Can't wait for I guess Batman versus Batman.
that's it. We call this Batman versus Batman next week. Is going to go up. You'll see it. You'll see it on our upcoming live streams. So with that being said, you guys could all just shut the hell up and subscribe. If you don't, that's you're missing out. But until next time, we'll see you, Mr. Storm.
See you, Mr. Maddox.